Welcome to this webinar where I would like to share with you some ideas I have on scientific writing coming from my experience as a researcher, a university professor, uh, associate editor of material structures, deputy editor-in-chief, and during the last couple of years, editor-in-chief of material structures. What I want to underline is that I have some ideas in a world that is changing quickly, my personal ideas, but I don't have the answer to many questions. So that's why I want to share with you my ideas. So why doing research? I would say that because we want to contribute to the development of the knowledge in our community, in our scientific community. So for moving a step forward with the community itself, for trying to solve big problems, still opening and challenges, still opening the world, new materials and technologies. Now we more and more we are also referring to circular economy, to sustainability in constructions in our field. For being part of the international community and working together with the international community, however, for doing a good research is very important to know the main needs in the scientific and not to do something, because what are the main needs in the community, and having good ideas for proposing a solution to these main needs. So how to choose a research topic? So for doing a good research, it's very important to know the main needs, as I said, but for better knowing the main needs, it's very important to read papers. No, not only write papers, but reading papers published by other authors, to meet colleagues. No, for example, in conferences, to discuss with them. In my opinion, in my experience, in my 30-year experience, I did research in three main topics. Very few of them, but I try to go deeply into these topics, and I continuously focus my interest in these topics because I wanted to provide some advancements in this topic. My research was mainly between materials and structures because I'm a structural engineer, but I am also very much interested in material science. How to organize a good research program? First of all, we have to clearly define the scope of the research and the expected results. As I said, we have to look around in the literature. Now it's very easy because everything is in the web. Most is in the web, so to see what's going on in the other countries and the other universities about that topic. So this allows to define the proposed advancements in the paper, in the research we are trying to start, and for obtaining these targets, we may define an experimental program for better understanding the physical phenomena governing the problem, or maybe why not define theoretical models for predicting the phenomena, or numerical models. But these numerical and theoretical models must be validated with experimental results provided by ourselves or available into the literature. When the analytical models are too complex, we may need to provide approximated models, simplified models, in order to make them more applicable, which is very important for design. And once we have the research findings, how to use them? Well, we have to inform the scientific community about our results, And what is the best way is to go through scientific journals, international scientific journals most of the time, but sometimes also national journals to inform our national community. And then we have also to attend conferences for sharing these results and discussing with the scientific community. It's very important to receive questions after a presentation because somebody is asking clarifications or indicating some errors we may have made in our research. This is very important for improving. And once we are quite sure about the rules, we can propose modifications of design rules if they are well validated by international results. And then, last but not least, also to make them available to students by introducing new university courses with the new research topics. I mentioned about conferences. Why attending conferences? As I said, for sharing and discussing our results with our community, to meet colleagues, to drink, maybe to discuss about research during coffee break or during lunch times, for being in a place where you feel part of a group of friends, international friends. And this allows also to activate possible joint research programs with exchange of visiting scholars, which is very good for exchanging researchers, professors, but also exchanging students, maybe PhD students or master students. It's important that the conference proceedings are scoped index. In my opinion, is not so important because it happens that it's good, but it happens that sometimes we see in material structures, if they are Scopus index, they are within the Scopus database. So when after the conference, the authors aim to submit the journal papers, if there is a high percentage of overlapping with the conference paper, the system will reject the submission. So this means that the journal papers must be different than the conference papers. And so this is somehow a limitation. And also we know very well, and the committees for promotion know very well, that the review process in conferences is not the same in many international journals. So basically, sometimes it happens that the review process is not so strict in conferences with respect to the international journal. So the paper don't provide the same guarantee to the committee, no? So basically, they mainly look at international journal papers most of the times. Why writing a paper after research? Okay, because we want to inform our research community about our new findings, for sharing our results. This is very important for public research with the community, for providing experimental results useful for future modeling in other universities, in other research centers. We write a paper because our research findings move a step forward in the knowledge. It's not important to break specimens and to say specimen A is stronger than specimen B, specimen C is weaker than specimen A. We want to help the community in better understanding what we are providing for enhances the knowledge in the specific topic. Is it important for having it in the list of paper? Why not? But I think that it's more important to contribute to the scientific community. It's more important the quality, in summary, of the quantity. I think that is more important not how many papers we publish, but what are the improvements that our papers are giving to the international community. And in many countries are not looking at indexes. Now we will mention about indexes in a while, because they look at the contributions provided by the applicant to a new position. How to organize a scientific paper? So define the scope. I think that research significant is a very important paragraph in every paper, and where you introduce the need of this research study within the international knowledge. Now at the time of we started the research. If it is an experimental research, we have to specify the materials we adopted, giving all the information about these materials, and the experimental all the information about the experimental setup adopted for obtaining the experimental results, because other researchers in the world should be able to replicate the same test in their laboratories. When we have numerical models, we have clearly define the numerical the limitations, the limits of applicability of the numerical models, and as well as the mesh sensitivity for the case of finite element models. For theoretical research, we have to clearly define the hypothesis supporting the model and all the analytical steps for reaching the final proposal. When present, we have to validate the models with experimental results available into the literature or obtained in our own lab, and clearly show that the main results and what they tell us, what are the improvements it's not a matter of just telling that it was stronger or weaker. What we know more after our research study. And we have to critically discuss the results, the limitations, some problems we may have in the experimental setup, and so on. We have to provide, of course, a good number of results representative, because otherwise, if it is one test is not clearly reliable. And we have to summarize in the concluding remarks all these findings. We have to cite, of course, in our paper, the previous papers who contributed to the development of this specific research topic. This is very important to cite. What is the development in the topic? We don't have to cite only our paper for increasing the number of our citations. There are self-citations that often are not considered by committees for promotion. And we don't have either to cite papers from friends only because we are exchanging citations, because this is not the way for not the clearly define the development of this specific research topic in the community. And of course, we want to capture the interest of the reader by giving the reader what is important for him for the advancements, and this will help also if we provide a good contribution. These authors will cite our contribution, so it will help to increase our number of citations for the specific paper. And in the same line, if we want to get the interest of reader, we have to publish the paper where readers are very much interested in our research topic. Just for a very simple, and I apologize for the stupid example. If I have a very good paper on concrete, I don't go to a journal on masonry only because it has a higher impact factor. So basically, what is important is that we have to talk to the readers of the specific journal where we are going to publish our contribution, national or international journal. Very often our more and more international, but I wouldn't forget also national journals for our community of researchers in our country. And why citing a paper? I told you now already, because we have to show the development of the knowledge over the past few or many years, from the beginning. And this is correct for recognizing the work done by previous researchers who already did some work in the topic I'm studying. And is it important for the increasing the number of citations? I already mentioned about what are my idea. Another big question is, are the bibliometric indexes important? In many countries, these are the only thing that committees are looking at when promoting a researcher to a new position. But in other countries, basically they are mainly looking at the contribution, the real contribution of paper, not only at indexes or number of citations or H index. Is the H index, for example, important? Let's imagine somebody who does one single paper, how to find for example, water in Mars, a very important finding. And he stops writing the paper. So this paper can change somehow the world, even though it is only one paper. And for these poor authors, but I would say great author, the H index will be only one, because it will have maybe 1 to 10 millions of citations for one single paper, and H index can only be one. So basically, H index is very important, but it is not the only important thing, because the research, even though it is a question in the slide, cannot be summarized in indexes, because the research is the contribution of knowledge provided to the community. And another big issue nowadays is why reviewing papers? Because somebody say, I'm so busy in writing papers that I don't have time for reviewing other papers. So we know very well that the reviewing paper is a volunteer work done by colleagues. It is a blind review because we want to guarantee a free judgment without any any restriction, no? Because this is a way for contributing to the scientific community, because if we want to publish papers, we know that our papers will be reviewed by at least 2 reviewers for each paper. So our 10 papers, for example, in 1 year will require 20 reviews, no? And 20 reviewers. And so that's why the system works. If there are 20 reviewers available for reviewing my paper, but we have, in order to make the system working, no, I have to guarantee that I do my part. So how many reviews I should accept? If I want to keep a kind of balance, if I submit 10 papers, and they require 20 reviewers, in order to balance the work, I have to be available in 20, for 20 reviews in 1 year, because this is a way to balance, no, what I'm asking to the scientific community. There are some journals that they want to show that they are better than others, that they ask the review in 1 week. But I wonder how it's possible if you are busy in research, teaching, writing, how can you do the review in 1 week? This means that you have to stop all the other activities for doing that review, but this is not fair. So basically, I think that in material structures, we provide 4 weeks. We give 4 weeks, and we are also flexible. Some reviewers that are usually providing very good reviews takes maybe a few more days or 1 or 2 more weeks for providing a very good review, because a good review means improving seriously the paper. This is a service that we are providing. If we want the service to survive, everybody has to do his part or her part. Writing papers, submitting papers, reviewing papers when we are asked to do it. Are special issues necessary? Special issues is a way for collecting papers on a specific topic, especially they come from conferences. Otherwise, there are offers from some publishers of special issues. What is important is that the special issue is providing a very good contribution to the knowledge, no, to the community. And we opened in material structures now a couple of special issues per year approved by the board of editors. But the review process of the special issue will be exactly the same of all the other papers of material structures. In other words, if you want to have a special issue for a conference, you have to apply for it. You need approval 1 year before, the approval of the board of editors, and then you have to select as responsible, no, for the special editor-in-chief of the specific special issue. You have to select a number of papers, about 10, 20, and these papers will go through the review process. According to our rules, for what I said, this cannot be exactly the same papers included into the proceedings of the conference for the reason of plagiarism. And then there are other issues. For example, Rilem has a different, because the Rilem community works in technical committees. Technical committees are divided in several clusters, from cluster A to cluster F, on specific topics, now structural applications, asphalts and pavements, materials, and masonries and timber. And so different topics are collected in different clusters of Rilem technical committees. Why attending one of these committees? Because you are part in the community, you are around the table with people working on the same topic that you are facing, having the same interest, for having a very good discussion, because from good discussions, you can get good ideas. And from good ideas, you can write good papers. And then you see what's going on in the world about the specific topic by interacting, discussing with colleagues, having your same interest. So that's why it's very important to attend and collaborate with Rilem technical committees, or in general, to technical committees of the different organizations. So it's more important doing research or writing paper. You already know now my idea, that I think that it's very important to do good research. Good research means after the research, producing a good paper. And the contrary is that the authors, and this happens unfortunately, are more interested in writing papers instead of doing good research. And once they do a research, they maybe submit this, they don't prepare one paper, they prepare, one paper, but they submit that paper to several journals, which is a problem because you may have sooner or later a plagiarism control of the paper if they are accepting the same paper in more than one journal. In material structures, it happens that we receive papers very similar, up to 70-80% to previous papers in proceedings, in other journals, or even worse now, due to the artificial intelligence, copied for significant parts from journals, for papers made by other authors. Of course, these papers are immediately rejected by the journal. Material structure, I mentioned about it, is the flagship journal publication of the Rilem, and because it's a journal of the Rilem community, it includes the interests of the Rilem community. So the topics accepted in material structure are the topics discussed within the Rilem community, discussed within the Rilem technical committees. The journal is, in my opinion, a high-quality journal. The impact factor is increasing. It was 3.7 the last year, is 3.9 this year. And I served this journal as a reviewer from 1995, a long time ago. And from 2012, I was asked to be associate editor. And from 2018, I was asked to be deputy editor-in-chief for taking care of the structural papers. And from 2024, I'm now editor-in-chief, serving as editor-in-chief, overlooking the whole journal with a very important help of my colleagues of the editorial management, in particular by the deputy editor-in-chief and by the editorial manager. These are the deputy editor-in-chief are Enrico Sassoni and chair of the technical activity committee of Rilem, and Arnaud Perrault. You see here the previous editor-in-chief of the journal. You see here, as I said, the deputy editor-in-chief of the journal nowadays. And then there is a list of associate editors, very many, because the number of submissions is increasing. They come from different countries, different continents, different genders, and are all together are contributing to the journal, and they are providing a gorgeous contribution. You see people from different continents, from experts in different fields. How to become? You have to demonstrate that you are a good researcher, and if you are a good researcher, you will be asked sooner or later to contribute to a journal as associate editor, which means collecting the paper, looking at the paper, and deciding if the paper needs a revision or not, and then taking the final decision for that paper. Rilem is also the Rilem technical committee's chairs and deputy chairs are also part of the editorial advisory committee of material structure. They are quite big because there are many technical committees active. Every day what happens? Every day happens that we receive many journals. We have to manage the journals. We have to take the first judgment. We do it. We try to do it in 1 week in order to tell the author, okay, the paper proceeds with a regular review, and hopefully in a few weeks it will be reviewed, or the paper is not good, is not suitable, is not within the scope of material structure, it will stop in a few days, so to allow the authors to go to some other journal, for example, if it is out of scope. If there is the review process, the paper is given by the editor-in-chief to the associate editor, and the associate editor give a look to the paper and then can reject immediately the paper if it is not good, or choose a couple of reviewers for reviewing the paper. Once he receives back the reviews, comments, he will take the decision to submit to the editor-in-chief. This is what happens every day in the journal. There are problems, of course. For example, reviewers do not accept the review. As I said, they are too busy in writing papers they don't want to review, but this way the system doesn't work, or they are very late in providing the review. Or they provide, because sometimes they provide completely different opinions. They do reviewers. No one say accept, and the other completely reject, two opposite opinions. So we need to have additional reviewers. Or they write very general comments, no, good, bad, without specifying why is good, why is bad, or even worse. They say, okay, if you want to, the paper can be accepted if you cite this, this, and this, and this paper, and by chance, all these papers are from the reviewers, which is not good because the review is a blind review. It's not an advertisement of the papers I wrote in my career. A few words about the material structures. We see here the number of submissions from the 2015 to 2020. You see that they were about 1,400, 500, and the number of accepted papers were around 10%. There are many papers rejected because the quality of the paper submitted was not within the level accepted by material structures. There are contributions from different countries. We see here in this slide, many papers come from the biggest countries where there are a number of Rilem members, and some more details about the final decision that was accepted in about 12% of the papers submitted. There is a significant percentage of good papers, but outside the scope of the journal, so they are transferred to another journal of Springer. And there are papers rejected by the associate editors directly. You see here over the last 4 years, the last year is 2025, the current year, those with the partial information. You see that we decreased the number of rejection by associate editors because there is a more detailed check by the editorial manager, and so basically we provide the answer without disturbing the associate editor because about the paper, so they don't need to reject because they were already checked by the board, by the editorial manager. The number of papers rejected after review are quite big, quite small. So which means that once a paper is considered good for review, if we go through the review process, and you see there is still a percentage of paper rejected after review, but it is not so big, no? Which means that the paper selected for review, generally speaking, are good papers. And what is worth underlining is that the number of papers is, you see here, 2000, over the last 3 years, 22, 23, 24, and then 25, you see that the number of papers increased significantly from 2023 to 2024. But now, in 2025, this histogram is now updated because we received so far about 1,400 papers, which means at the end of the year, more or less, now twice, 2,800, so it will be another increase of the number of papers we are expecting submitted. For the reviews, we see that some reviewers have completed the review, a significant percentage, but some others decline the review, around more than 20%, and we have to look for other reviews. Some of them don't answer, so we have to uninvite them, and a few of them, we are too late, we have to close the review because they are too late, they are not providing the answer to the reviewer. A few of them are late, but many of them provide early review, which is very good for the journal. And you see here the average time for completing the review in material structure is about 4 weeks. These are the weeks that we are asking. Some information about the review, and we are trying to do our best for providing a good service to the authors who submit papers to material structure. And I close my presentation here. I have to stay within the 30 minutes. And so I close. I thank you very much for your attention, but I am available for any type of question and any type of information you may need. Thank you again.